Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. It is Tuesday, so I wanted to do a tag for Tag Tuesday. And the tag that I chose is the personal library tag. This is a tag that's been going around the last couple of days. The original was done by Shelly Swearinggen, and I saw it on David Wiley's channel last night, and I was watching his video, and David, I got to come back and finish your video. I enjoyed listening to what you had to say, but the national championship came on, so I had to turn the video off. And so you'll have to I apologize. You'll have to forgive me for that. But I was watching the North Carolina KU game, and unfortunately, my Tar Heels season came to an end with a loss instead of a national championship. But you know, that's okay. Just making it to the national championship's a pretty big deal. You know, that's what I always tell my kids. You know, if we've had a season where we're in the playoffs, or if we're, you know, especially, you know, when you get to that high a level of the playoffs, that's a big deal. You know, I heard kids talking about the Super Bowl and complaining about, you know, one team winning and one team not. And I'm like, both teams got there. That's a big deal. But anyway, yeah, let's get to the book tag, because this is about books. But anyway, I got to come back and finish David's video. I'll probably do that this morning as I'm getting ready for stuff at school. But this is the personal library tag. And the first question on this tag: do you have books around, or do you think of yourself as having a personal library? I definitely have a personal library. I don't just have books lying around. Even though I do have books lying around, they are a part of my personal library. The ones that are lying around are the ones that I'm reading right now. And so, like on the shelf here, these ones right over my shoulder, those are the ones I'm reading right at this very moment. And these up here, I believe, are the ones that I'm going to partake in next, I think, anyway. That is definitely subject to change, but I do have a personal library. This group of books identifies me. It is very personal to me. It shows the viewer, somebody who comes into my library, it shows them something about me. They figure out real quick that history is my passion. They can definitely narrow down where my emphasis is with the Civil War and the American Revolution. Those are my emphasis, especially Civil War, and it becomes very obvious, not only, you know, in my personal library if you see it in real life, but also if you're watching my videos. And so yeah, I view this definitely as a personal library. So question number 2, what does a collection or personal library mean to you? And you know, as I was just, you know, kind of alluding to, it is a reflection of the person who collects the books. It's the person, you know, it's a personal library. You can tell their likes and maybe even some dislikes. You can definitely tell that person is a reader. I mean, that's very important to begin with. But just knowing where their interests lie, knowing that they are trying to make better for themselves, knowing that, you know, just that idea that you're trying to build your mind, you know, especially if you're, I'm thinking of my own collection with my nonfiction. It just, I don't know. I tried to explain this to my wife and to other people, like at work and stuff, with my collection, my personal library. They wonder if I have too many books, and they want me to cull the herd and, you know, all of that. And I struggle with that, because this library is like an extension of me. It is my personality. It is it is part of how I view myself now. When I talk about, when somebody asks me, you know, tell me about yourself. What are your favorite hobbies and stuff? You know, I always come back to the classical. You know, I love baseball. That's always been important to me. But definitely in the last 5 to 10 years, my library gets mentioned. I'm a reader. I have a lot of books at home. I have several bookcases. I got these right here, and then there's a room upstairs where I've got a lot of my books, and I need more bookcases. I have a whole bunch of boxes of books that need to be put on shelves so that they can be showcased, and I can go through them and pick and choose here and there what I want to read. But I guess my personal library and what it means to me, it's an extension of me. It shows my personality. So question number 3, what is your personal library for? Reading? No, I'm kidding. Of course it's for reading. I dip in and out of my personal library periodically, and I usually have 5, 6, 7 books all going at the same time. So it's obvious it's for reading, but my personal library is also for learning. I am a teacher, and I teach history and Civil War and the American Revolution. Those are 2 of my big topics I hit with my 8th grade class. We spend a lot of time. Like right now we're reading Frederick Douglass, his autobiography that he wrote, and then we'll be heading into the antebellum period in the Civil War, heading towards the end of the school year. And so you find in my library a whole lot of Civil War stuff, because I want to, when I am teaching the kids, I want to be the master of that subject. I want to be able to give them as much knowledge as I can, and at the same time I want to show them that learning is reading and learning is a lifelong endeavor. And I don't want to show them that, or I don't want to tell them that you just read in school and then you're done with it for the rest of your life. I want to show them that this is something that you do your entire life. It is a gratifying experience. And so for me, not only is my library obviously for reading, but it's for personal growth, career growth, and it's for, I would even put it on there as it's part of my mental health. It helps me grow in my career, but it also calms me. I love reading, whether it's my nonfiction stuff, or I pick up a mystery, or even a middle grade fiction book, which I've been doing this year so that I'm reading stuff that my middle school kids are reading at the same time, so I can have conversations with them. It's good for my mental health. I mentioned in a previous video that I have a chair that sits right over here opposite of this bookcase, and there are days when maybe I just don't feel like reading, but I can sit in that chair and just stare at my cases, and it calms me. And so I think my personal library, it does a lot for me. So let's go to question number 4. Where is your personal library? Contained to a single room or spread out all about the house? Okay, so if it was up to me and I was a single guy, my library would be all over the house. It would be the entire house. But I am married with children, and my wife doesn't allow that. She is a minimalist, and she would like to see me, cull the herd. Although in the last year or 2, she's starting to realize what my library does for me. I jokingly said in a previous video, I'd like to build a wing onto the side of my house to add on a library wing for my whole collection. But reality of that's probably not going to happen. But as I look at this, when you come into my house, so my front door is just right over there, and when you come in, this is one of the first things you see. It's the opposite wall of the front door. You see these 2 big cases and this little case right behind me, and it looks pretty sharp. The way my wife laid it out, it looks pretty sharp. And then the other part of my library is upstairs. We have it could be called a very big closet or a small bedroom, depending on how you want to look at it. But I use it, it's our storage room, and I use it for my library. And it's a really skinny but really long room, and all along the one side is full of bookcases, and then along the very back wall is bookcases. And then we got storage totes in there for like Christmas decorations and fall decorations and spring decorations and all that. And then, little kid mementos. And anyway, it's a storage room. I don't get up there very much, or not as much as I would like to, just because there's just a lot of stuff in that room. But that is where I keep the bulk of my books. But this is the one that gets showcased all the time. The books periodically change on the shelf as I get new ones in, or if somebody sends me books. And the only other place that I really have, I might have one book on my nightstand or on my dresser right beside my bed. And then I have a stack of them over in the front room where I do the majority of my reading that sit right by the lamp. My wife has kind of let me keep 5, 6 books stacked there. And I, in the mornings, I kind of pick and choose through that, which one I'm going to read. So my personal library, as I said, is mainly upstairs in the upper room. And then these 3 bookcases here behind me. So number 5, how many books make up your personal library? Now, I used to keep a very accurate count of this. This was the pre-COVID days, and I had a nice system. I still have the system, but it's not up to date. I've had people send me books in the mail, and sometimes they send me a lot of books. And I have not done a very good job of adding those to my list. I would guess that my personal library is somewhere around 2,000 books. That's just a guess. It might be more, might be less. I have not done a very good job of keeping up the inventory like I used to. So question number 6, how do you organize your personal library? So in my library, I have a Google Docs sheet where I have all of my books listed, at least the ones before I got lazy and stopped adding them to the list. But I've got them all alphabetically by author. And then on Google Docs, you can do bullet points, with your lists. And so I have a bullet points, and then the books that I have not read have an open bullet by them. And then the books that I have read have a check mark in the bullet, and then it makes a line across the title and everything, so it shows that I've read it. So that I can kind of keep track of that. I like to keep track of that. But that is how I organize my personal library, is through my Google Docs list. Now, downstairs here in this part, well, I used to have them alphabetically by author's name, but as I said, I've told you in previous videos, we got a 5-year-old here at home, and before she was born, upstairs I had a whole room with 2 solid walls of bookcases, and everything was done by author last name. And then when I read the book, I would move it to another section where I had them by Dewey Decimal, so they were in subject order. It was really pretty cool, pretty sharp. People told me I was nuts, but it kind of went with my personality. But now I've got them in the upper room because we had to have that bedroom from when my daughter was born. But now I've got them in the upper room, and they are not really in order. They're actually in size order so that I can be the most proficient with my shelves. You don't want to have a whole bunch of extra space in there when you could kind of collapse the shelves down and get an extra shelf in. And so we did that upstairs so that it's by size so that it's more efficient. Now down here, I've kind of stuffed all these. My wife doesn't really like that, but it's the only way I can get all my books on the shelf without them being in stacks around the house. A lot of these are by subject order. So like this shelf, most of it is Civil War. This is Civil War. If you, let's see, you get up top here, we've got, let's see, that one's actually random. One of these shelves around here, I can't remember where it's at, but up here, a lot of these up here are World War II items. We've got some world history around here. So anyway, I had them at one time in subject order on these shelves. It's not perfect. There are several that are not in order, but anyway, that's how I organize it. And then, like I said, I've been trying to keep the ones that I am reading or gonna read next right there where I can get to them. Number 7. Do you keep track of your personal library? If so, how? Okay, so revert back to my previous answer, Google Docs, and I keep track of them that way. I have a list of the books that I have, what I've read, what I haven't read. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. Question number 8. How do you decide to add a book to your personal library? Well, it's pretty simple. Do I like it? If I like it, I get it. You know, if it's cheap enough, I'll get it. A lot of times when I buy books, the stuff that I like to read is the stuff that I teach in school as far as my nonfiction goes. So, you know, as I said, Civil War, American Revolution, World War I and II, I teach those. I've been adding to my world history collection because I have a world history class. So that's how I decide to add a book. You know, do I have it? Obviously, I try not to buy doubles. And then, is it something that's going to add to my knowledge? Something I'm going to, you know, a subject I'm going to enjoy. Now, when it comes to fiction, I have some favorite authors that I read. I have a lot more nonfiction than I do fiction, by the way. So I'm actually a little bit more picky with my fiction because I don't want to waste my money. Where with my nonfiction, I'm willing to go out on a limb a little bit more because not only is it entertaining for me, it also helps me in my career. So I like mysteries. I don't have a ton of them, but I have a couple of favorite authors that I read. I love historical fiction. I'll go more out on a limb with my historical fiction because I love that genre. And then just straight up current day fiction, just a straight up fiction story. You know, I'll read the cover and see if it sounds interesting, and I'll give it a try if it's, you know, cheap enough. But that's kind of how I decide whether I'm going to add it to my personal library or not. Number 9, when it's time to cull your personal library, how do you decide what stays and what goes? Cull? What's that mean? Number 10, does your personal library have books you haven't read or may not read? I have a ton of books that I haven't read. Most of my books I haven't got to yet. I'm a slow reader. You know, some people say I read a ton or a lot of books. I would tell them, yes, I spend a lot of time reading, but I don't cover a lot of books just because when I'm sitting there, I put in a lot of time, but I'm a slow reader. And so in my collection, I buy way more than what I read. And I like that because I have options on what to go to next. I'm not just like, oh, that's the only one I got left. You know, if I don't want to read that yet, I don't have to read that yet. And, you know, the second part, or may not read, I might have 1 or 2 books that I know I may not read. One of them is in German, and that's because I don't read German. It was a collector's thing that my wife got me not German, Italian, sorry. When my wife went to Italy when we first got married, she brought me back a book from Italy. I can't read Italian, so I won't read it, but I keep it for nostalgia, for the memory's sake. I also have a book of poetry that I probably will not read. I don't read poetry, but my wife bought it to me as was it a Valentine's Day gift, or it was either that or it was a anniversary gift. I can't remember. I think it was Valentine's, but I keep that for, you know, memory's sake. Other than that, I plan on reading all my books. It might take me till on my deathbed to get to that last one, but my plan is to read all my books. And it does not bother me to have books that I haven't read. Number 11, what do you think about the idea of a 0 TBR? I don't even get that. Because if you have a 0 TBR, that means you're not planning to read anymore. That means you've stopped reading, in my eyes. You know, your to be read, you know, that's your plans for, I'm going to read this, you know, read this next, or I'm planning on continuing reading. If you have a 0 TBR, that means you're not a reader. So what do I think about it? I don't like it. So anyway, number 12. How do you feel about or towards your personal library? Well, as I've said earlier in this video, it's my personal library. It's an extension of me. And so how do I feel about it? I am very protective of it. This is the one thing that, you know, when my wife says we got to get rid of some stuff, I'm like, no. I kind of draw the line. This is me. This is mine. And I'm not getting rid of it. I mean, we'll just have to figure something out because I'm not getting rid of it. This is a part of our house. This is a part of our life. and it's a part of me. And so if I had to get rid of my library, I would be getting rid of a part of me, and I think it would make me very sad, honestly. So I feel very protective. I feel very very loving towards my library. I know that sounds weird, but I absolutely love being a book collector, or having my personal library. I absolutely love it. It's something that just shows others something about myself, and it gives me peace and calm. And it's one of my favorite hobbies. It's moving out of my list of hobbies. It is, if it's not up at the top, it's right up there at the top. So anyway, this has been the personal library tag. Again, I saw, well, the first half of David Wiley's. I got to watch the second half. And I've seen several other people do this tag, but Shelly Swearinggen is the one who originated it. I'll put the link to both their channels down below. Both great channels, by the way. If you have not went to Shelly's or David's channel, please go visit their channels. Give them some likes, give them some subs if you haven't already. Just go check them out. Great people, great channel. Great conversations about books. Thank you to all the new subscribers. I really appreciate you following the channel. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Thank you for spending these last 20 minutes with me. So until next time, BookTube, happy reading.